Today I'm reviewing the Disney movie Tarzan, and I'm going to explain the different components of it and how it relates to narrative structure. Tarzan is an illusionistic film because of the different elements in it that relate to the natural world, but is fiction in general. The plot of a man growing up in the jungle and raised by apes could be seen as something in the everyday world, but the details, for example, like the animals talking, becoming friends, and the different movements, such as swinging on vines, cannot be possible for a regular human. Although these elements are clearly fiction, it has a sense of realism that the audience feels. These elements make the film illusionistic. The exposition starts before Tarzan was born. His parents were sailing on a ship throughout the ocean when it caught fire, and they had to jump overboard to save their lives. Once they came across land, they decided to start a new life there on the island, so they built a treehouse to raise their family. But their time was cut short when a leopard snuck into their home one day and attacked them both, killing them. But as Tarzan began to cry, a female ape heard him and took him back to her family to take care of him. They taught him everything he knows about being an ape, and Tarzan considers himself one of them, not knowing that he's actually human. The rising action happens when Tarzan's friend dares him to get a hair from an elephant's tail. When he grabs the tail, the elephants freak out and go into a stampede, causing them to run into the jungle, almost trampling the other monkeys. Because of this, Tarzan's father Kerchak yells at him and tells him that he should have never been welcomed into the family and that he's not one of them. This makes Tarzan question his identity. The inciting incident happens when Tarzan meets Jane and the other humans for the first time. Jane and her father arrived at the island to study the apes and gain scientific research. They also brought along a man named Clayton and his men to protect them from any wild animals. As Tarzan began spending more time with Jane, she started to teach him English and how to act like the other humans. They got along really well, and the more time they spent with each other, the more they started to like each other. The compounding conflict happens when Tarzan's mom shows him his parents' treehouse. She wanted him to understand himself and find the answers he's been looking for about his identity. He finds a picture of him and his parents together, which makes him realize that he was never part of the other apes, and that he was always human to begin with. The comic relief always comes from Tarzan's two best friends, Tantor and Turk. They are always making jokes during serious moments to calm the tension going on. It's also the reason why they get into so many fights with the other animals. But to Tarzan, they're his closest companions, and they always do more good than harm. In the next scene, Tarzan goes with Jane onto her ship so that they can travel to the mainland and see the humans so that Tarzan can be with the people of his own kind. But instead of leaving, Clayton imprisons Tarzan, Jane, and her father in the lower deck of the ship. The Deus Ex Machina comes into this scene because suddenly Tantor and Turk break through the boat to save them and helps bring them back to the island. The obligatory moment of this story is when Clayton thinks that Tarzan and Jane are still imprisoned on the ship. So him and all of his men storm the island and start chopping down the trees and try to kidnap the animals to sell them for money. He traps them all in cages and starts to bring them back to the ship, Kerchak being the first one. But just in time, Tarzan arrives and frees him from a net, and they all work together to free the other apes as well. The climax happens when Tarzan and Kerchak are both fighting against Clayton, but while Kerchak is charging towards him, Clayton pulls out his gun and shoots him in the chest. Tarzan becomes furious but is too weak to fight him, so he climbs up a tree for safety. Clayton follows after him and they fight until Clayton falls and loses his gun. At this point, Tarzan picks it up and points it at him, but he's unable to pull the trigger because he never wanted to kill him. But as they continue, Clayton gets trapped in a tangle of vines and tries to free himself, but ends up falling and accidentally hangs himself until death. The last is the falling action when Tarzan goes back to see Kerchak. He apologizes to him that he couldn't save him, but Kerchak takes the blame and says that he didn't understand before, but now he realizes that Tarzan has been one of them the entire time. Just before he passes away, he asks Tarzan to lead the family from then on and take care of them for him. He also calls him his son, which he has never done before. In conclusion, Jane and her father stay on the island with Tarzan and his family. This gave Jane the chance to be with him, and it gave her father the opportunity to continue to study the jungle and the other apes living there.